When was the last time you felt like everything was conspiring to keep you apart from the people, opportunities, and paths you had faith were destined for you? Many people mistakenly believe that they are being punished because they feel distant, alone, and frozen in an unfamiliar silence. Is that so? What if it isn't? Is it possible that you're being drawn inward, to a sacred threshold within yourself, by this profound solitude, rather than that the universe is conspiring against you? An expansive viewpoint, one that challenges us to journey into the symbolic subconscious and uncover that the seemingly darkest place actually serves as the fertile ground for personal growth. Following the wisdom of the great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, a man who spent his life exploring the depths of the human psyche, we shall investigate the psychological and spiritual aspects of solitude, viewing it not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for growth. According to Jung, the most important thing a person can do is go through the individuation process. This is not your average road, though, in terms of individual development or social change. A complete merging of our conscious and unconscious selves is the goal of this inward journey, this mysterious unfolding that leads to self-realization. But this is rarely a mild mission. Being alone is necessary. It robs us of our familiarity and leaves us in a liminal state where the old crumbles and the new does not yet form. Such seclusion often arises at times of profound introspection, and this is not a coincidence. Considering that, according to Jung, the path to becoming one's authentic self, rather than conforming to societal expectations, is individuation. It challenges us to seek the unfiltered essence of who we are rather than hiding behind the facades that others expect us to wear. However, this core is not visible. It lurks under our conditioned beliefs, the layers of conditioning we've inherited, and the versions of ourselves that we've buried or rejected. Meeting what Jung called the shadow, or the aspects of ourselves that we've hidden away, is a challenging part of coming into one's own. They failed to meet our standards of worthiness or conform to the image we have been striving to project. Among these latent features might be urges, anxieties, wants, or traits that we were taught to be ashamed of. The shadow, according to Jung, was not evil. The answer is a mystery, and the unknown is what we dread. A person's individuation is more than simply a process of becoming, a brave blending of our light and shadow selves. It is a method of making amends and embracing what we have feared. In order to do this, we must approach the very aspects of ourselves that we have been avoiding in order to break down the mental barriers we have erected to protect ourselves and to find that our deepest fears contain the seeds of our greatest potential for growth and healing. Music, isolation's sacred function, is revealed in this still and unsettling space of separation. People who only serve to reinforce our social masks and societal expectations make it very difficult, if not impossible, for our individuation journey to take place in social settings. Then you can listen to hushed murmur of the spirit. We need to withdraw from the din of the material world. We need to separate ourselves from the constant din of influences that masks who we really are. A person who chooses to temporarily isolate themselves from the world in pursuit of inner clarity may be an example of someone who consciously chooses to withdraw. It could also be something that naturally happens to us in life, like when we're suddenly alone and it shakes us to our core. Despite how it may feel, being alone is not a punishment. It is a place where awakening takes place. The solitude and stillness bestow upon us the unusual opportunity to face our shadows head-on, to reveal the truth behind our masks. We've assumed different personas. Symbolically, the tightly woven threads of our lives are being untangled during this time of profound self-reflection. A more profound understanding of our true nature, unveiled from the layers of social conditioning, is revealed as we peel back those layers. The human psyche, according to Jung, is not a monolith, but rather a symphony of opposites, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine. A person's uniqueness. At its core, the process is about bringing these seemingly incompatible elements back together, a holy balancing of inner duality. More than just a sense of wholeness is achieved when we start to incorporate the shadow. We liberate enormous stores of latent psychic energy that were previously repressed, buried, or banished. A revitalized feeling of vitality, an explosion of creativity, and an unfalsifiable sense of authenticity are all outcomes of this release of inner energy. This is not a linear process, though, so bear that in mind. Furthermore, it does not reach any particular location. IMA, unfolding throughout our lives, a never-ending process of self-awareness that develops as we age and face new levels of difficulty and transformation. The individuation process develops alongside our maturation. The need for personal space is also paramount. Living in seclusion is a chronic condition. We go through it again and again because it's an important part of our mental and spiritual development. The signs of rejection, abandonment, or punishment are frequently mistaken for those of isolation. However, the fact remains that it could be a potent invitation from the cosmos to authenticity. No one is being cruel by removing you from the situation. You are being reminded of your own identity. You have to be ready to let go of everything that isn't authentic to you before you can find your wild, authentic self. Music. Every day, we face an overwhelming amount of information, opinions, expectations, stimuli, and background noise, all of which serve to distance us from who we really are. At first, being alone might seem like a punishment in this crazy world. Contrary to appearances, there is a secret present, the call to introspection, to enter the depths of your being and confront the aspects of yourself you've buried for so long. You are not being cast out when doors close or paths disappear, when the universe pulls you back from others. In the stillness, you will find your true voice, and it is leading you back home. Sitting quietly with your unfiltered thoughts isn't always easy, but it will be more so if you're not accustomed to that. For a culture that values multitasking and getting things done over stillness, presence can be frightening, even stifling. Something holy, though unsettling, starts to stir within the stillness. Imagine for a second that you are suddenly in utter darkness with nobody around. For a while, the total darkness might be unsettling. Continue, though. You gradually start to notice what was previously invisible as your eyes acclimate. Forms, shadows, and silhouettes. What was once terrifying now exposes a mysterious and vibrant inner world. That is exactly the process of isolation. At first, all you can feel is the emptiness, loneliness, and maybe even the pain of loss. But eventually, when you give in to the quiet, you can see your true self. The parts of you that you have denied for far too long. Your fears, your desires, your long-buried dreams, and everything in between. You will find your truth again in this quiet reckoning. It takes a special kind of rebellion to be genuine in a society that is so concerned with outward appearances. However, what does it mean to be? How are you going to know who you are if you've never met in person? We are shaped by societal expectations about our identities, desires, and behavior from the time of our birth. These messages impose identities on us that do not truly reflect who we are. Being alone is not a bad thing because of this. A sanctuary it is not. It provides a serene environment free from the scrutiny of others and allows you to contemplate without interruption. Since no one is looking, you can finally be completely honest with yourself here. Not because you feel obligated to, but simply because, within this secluded inner room, starting with a foundation of radical truth, you can begin to deconstruct the ideas, habits, and narratives you've unknowingly internalized and begin to construct a new identity. Doing this will not be a picnic. Actually, it could be among the most unpleasant trips you've ever taken. However, doing so is essential for achieving authentic self-sufficiency. You also have a unique opportunity to reconcile with your shadow in this area. Your hidden or rejected parts that didn't fit the image you wanted to project to the world. Entire planet. Sitting quietly with these aspects of yourself, not as adversaries, but as overlooked friends, away from the world's continual distractions, may give you the strength to do so. What appeared to be a weakness before starts to show as latent strength as you do this. If you want to live your life to the fullest, you must make peace with your shadow. Because facing life fearlessly is only possible when you accept yourself completely, flaws and all. Furthermore, being alone teaches you a lesson that no amount of praise from others can match. The best way to have faith in your gut. When other people's opinions are no longer overpowering, your own voice can finally be heard. Your capacity to rely on your intuition and gut feelings to guide your decisions will also grow stronger and more accurate as a result. This was something that the great soul explorer Carl Jung grasped on a profound level. Solitude, in his view, entailed more than just being alone. It was a mental condition, a metamorphosis along chemical lines. It is not a lack of company that causes loneliness, as he once put it, but rather being alone, incapable of articulating one's own perceptions of what is important. Then, emptiness is not the essence of genuine isolation. This is all about scope. You might just discover who you are at that depth. Soundtrack. Sometimes it's the absence of distractions, this kind of solitude, which can happen even in crowded places, that sparks personal development and major life changes. We have a tendency to see feelings of isolation negatively, as if they were an indication that something is wrong with our lives. However, when viewed through Jungian psychiatry suggests that these profoundly lonely moments might be signs of something holy, a spiritual call to uncover more about who we are, where we fit in the universe, and what we're here to learn. By reimagining solitude as a sacred threshold, we can break free from external distractions and connect with the unchanging truth within. Solely being alone is no longer a sentence, but a portal. This is no ordinary loneliness. We might say it's a state of creative solitude, the kind experienced by great artists, spiritual leaders, philosophers, and those who venture into the recesses of the mind in search of profound insights. Solo creativity is active. The silence of hopelessness or inactivity is not it. This is a great time for discovering oneself because it is an active process of looking within. Here, one can disconnect from the mundane concerns of everyday life and focus on tapping into their own well of wisdom and inspiration. For example, many artists prefer to work in solitude, to immerse oneself more fully in life rather than to run away from it. The most real and vivid ideas and expressions of their soul come to life in this sanctuary of peace and quiet, where they are able to connect with aspects of themselves that are hidden by daily life. What comes out in this place is honest, genuine, and very individual because societal norms don't exist. Similarly, spiritual visionaries and philosophers have, for a long time, avoided public speaking in order to listen to their inner voice. Throughout history, some of the most groundbreaking concepts have been created in these sacred moments of quiet, when one faces life's most fundamental questions and discovers answers that are lost in the din of the outside world. Not only does this type of seclusion inspire new ideas, but it also forces us to examine our assumptions, think deeply about our experiences, and face the unpleasant realities that we have pushed to the back of our minds. We can no longer run from the things we have denied for so long when the world around us becomes silent. We confront the shadow side of ourselves, our fears, paradoxes, and dormant anxieties. This meeting, despite its potential discomfort, is essential. We start to let go of the illusions that have subtly molded our lives, the roles we've played, the stories we've held onto, and the beliefs that have restricted our potential when we face these truths head-on. Something incredible occurs as we remove these layers. Not on the surface, but at the core, we start to change. We cease to be the selves that other people have shaped us to be and begin changing into a new, more authentic, aligned, and complete version of oneself. Being alone does not mean just cutting off all contact. This new beginning is holy. In order to emerge changed, we, too, must withdraw into the quiet darkness of our chrysalis, just as the butterfly does. When we do this, we experience more than simply an inner transformation. Its light spreads beyond. We gain insight into our true wants, fears, and yearnings, and we become more truthful and self-aware on the inside. Our perspective on the world starts to shift once we step outside, not out of any desire to fit in, but to do it without sacrificing our sense of self-belonging. We will no longer compromise our values or conform to the expectations of others. In its place, we start to conduct our lives in harmony with our own truth, principles, and purpose. Sound, the sacred crucibles where emotional and mental resilience is forged, are times of solitude, despite its frequent misinterpretation. Being alone with your fears and inner struggles forces you to face them head-on, without the continual presence, distraction, or approval of others. In person, something alchemical happens in the midst of this confrontation. You feel a growing inner strength. Learning to steady yourself in the face of life's inevitable storms makes you stronger and more independent, not because someone else held your hand. One of the greatest benefits of living alone is developing your inner fortitude. In doing so, you will experience a freedom and independence from the outside world like never before. As part of his work on the mind and the universe, Carl Jung proposed a theory that enhances our comprehension of these serene periods of existence. Being in sync. Not only does the poetic quality of the word captivate many, but it also has the ability to show how seemingly random events are actually intricately connected with hidden meaning. What appears to be random chance could be a sign, a purposeful thread in the tapestry of your life, as we learn from the principle of synchronicity. In this view, being alone is more akin to entering a holy interval, a space being shaped by the cosmos to set you up for something that you're not even aware of yet. Whether it's because of outside forces or your own desires, when the universe pulls away from you, it might be preparing a hidden ballet of events whose importance will only become apparent at a later date. Although you may experience pain or confusion during this time of isolation, it could actually be the beginning of a life-changing epiphany, breakthrough, or inner transformation. Quite frequently, most significant changes occur when there is complete silence, rather than when there is a lot of activity. When things start to fit together in ways you couldn't have imagined. Do not resist or hurry through these moments. Instead, have faith. Have faith that this serene area is actually bustling with activity. Have faith that there is life in the silence. Every thread, no matter how frayed or painful, holds significance in life's vast and intricate tapestry, and synchronicity encourages us to view it as such. Then, seclusion is a sacred part of life, not an interruption. A moment when the spirit readies itself for a revelation, a change in perspective, or the beginning of a new chapter in its story. According to Jung, there's an ongoing conversation between ourselves and the unconscious, which is like a huge ocean of symbols, archetypes, and mental energies. Not just through omens or clairvoyance, but even in the act of being alone. We hone our sensitivity to the nuanced signals that are attempting to communicate with us when we are alone and away from the bustle of the outside world. Internal sources. It's as if being alone trains our inner ear to pick up sounds that were previously inaudible. Intuition, insight, and the subtle emergence of novel perspectives on your life and its meaning can flourish in this setting. What you once dreaded in terms of empty space becomes fertile ground for growth when truths that have lain dormant for a long time emerge. Here, the cosmos makes its voice heard more clearly, and insights that would have been buried in the disorder of the ordinary. Somewhere, like a seed dormant in the darkness, your essence may be quietly sprouting, changing, and getting ready to burst forth at the appropriate moment. While you're alone, you can also see connections and patterns that might have slipped your mind before. Things that had seemed to be happening in isolation or at random started to come together to make sense. Being alone allows you to take a step back, survey your life from a higher vantage point, and uncover the underlying coherence. That was it. Everything that has happened to you, from chance meetings to difficult situations to serendipitous events, is starting to fit together, and you can see how it is all a part of a greater, unseen plan. Also, when you're alone, time seems different. We live our lives tied to the clock and the idea that the passage of time is linear, going from the past to the future. Being alone, though, makes something much more enigmatic apparent. An eternal state in which the unknown and the familiar entwine in bizarre and graceful methods. At these times, you might have the sense that a long-buried truth about your past is finally coming to light, or that a vague feeling about your future is starting to materialize. At this point, being alone distorts the passage of time and transports you to a place where meaning is more freely given. You are no longer merely surviving the stillness. You are actually benefiting from it. The most difficult and in-depth journeys of spiritual enlightenment and personal development include the idea of the dark night of the soul. Mental health. San John of the Cross, a Spanish mystic from the 16th century, was the first to put it into words. It describes a terrible time when a person feels completely disconnected from God, their life's purpose, and even themselves. There is more to this than a brief period of emotional despair. The familiar framework of one's inner world crumbles, giving way to a crushing silence that reverberates endlessly. This is an existential disintegration. An invisible void engulfs you, and you can't see any way out. Going ahead. This phenomenon was not seen by Carl Jung as a sign of ruin, but as a sacred stage on the path to wholeness as he explored the unconscious and the transformative path of individuation. According to Jung, the dark night does not represent a fall from grace. Descending into purification is what it is. Descending into one's own mental underworld is what it is. In order to not die, but rather to rise again, purer, more united, and closer to its original intent. At this point, we have no choice but to confront the figures concealed beneath the surface of our subconscious, the demons within that we have repressed, denied, or distracted ourselves from. Unresolved fears, traumas, wounds, or longings can give rise to these. Their appearance is symbolic of the shadow self, or the aspects of ourselves that we were socialized to reject. Still, they stand tall in the shadows, demanding attention, a place, and integration. This dispute is not mild. Disorientation and agony are common experiences. It reveals the true us by removing the personas and deceptions we've clung onto, but the new self can't be born until the old self dies symbolically. In this case, being alone is very important, not as a form of punishment, but as a sacred enclosure. It is the place where change begins. The world's din has long been muted, but here in this quiet place we can make out every sound. Here, in solitude, the soul starts its slow cleansing, letting go of all that has obstructed its path and bound it to habits that don't contribute to its growth. This internal swashbuckler is a divine chemistry rather than punishment. It is necessary to strip ourselves of all false attachments and return to our essence, much like the ancient alchemists did with raw materials in order to transform them into gold. Only then can something greater come from this process. There is no dissolution of the soul in this night. It starts to condense. It has seemed like a loss, yes. Yes, it's terrifying. However, deception, not reality, is what ultimately perishes. Also, what makes it through is far more substantial, profound, and genuine. A soul's dark night is, finally, a gracious deed. Devastation may be its mask, but beneath it lies the opportunity for a rebirth that is neither easy nor comfortable. Embarking on this gloomy path signifies the start of liberation from shackles of antiquated notions, obsolete personas, and passed-down anxieties. What comes out is a soul that is not only more mature, but also reborn into a new phase of life, one that reverberates with clarity that was previously unfathomable. Jung held the view that this procedure wasn't merely required for the unusual spiritual leader or thinker. To each person's journey of self-discovery, it was fundamental. We have to go through the dark places we've left behind if we ever want to be whole again. Instead of consuming us, We will be transformed by facing our fears. In the stillness of the night, we can rediscover long-lost parts of ourselves, incorporating shadows into our identity. A more whole, more grounded, and considerably more compassionate self is born out of this integration, even though it is forged in pain. Different people. Our connection with the divine is enhanced on this journey, and it goes beyond the psychological. Tradition and oral tradition no longer contain the sacred. It can be discovered through first-hand experience, when illusions are melted away and the everlasting truth is subtly revealed. In this place, faith takes on a more real, intimate, and vital quality. Your quest for self-discovery has come to an end. You are evolving into the living mystery. The truth you find, moreover, cannot be taught. Only the spirit can understand it, able to recall what it was like to walk through the flames. Sound. Carl Jung venerated the unconscious in his extensive research into the human mind. He saw it as more than just a repository for repressed feelings and thoughts. He saw it as an eternal wellspring of profound insight and direction. Jung saw the unconscious as an immense sea teeming with psychological forces, archetypes, and symbols. A cosmic depths that, although concealed beneath the surface of ordinary existence, emerges to communicate when we carve out the space to. Please pay attention. According to Jung, seclusion is the holy portal that leads to this unexplored world. Our inner life starts to communicate when we are finally alone with ourselves, away from the continual stimulation and distractions of the outside world. While alone, the subconscious doesn't murmur, it reverberates. By looking at it through the prism of synchronicity, this seclusion becomes apparent as a complex web in which even the stray, long-forgotten threads have significance. Solitude means more than simply being alone in this more profound sense. It is the time of pregnancy. A new chapter, a new vision, and a new direction are born at this threshold. According to Jung, we are constantly having a dialogue with the unconscious, this enormous and holy interior realm. Not just in the realm of dreams or random coincidences, but also in the peaceful, contemplative environment of solitude. We start to hear better when there is no background noise. We become more perceptive, more sensitive, and more attuned to the subtle messages that emanate from the depths when we are alone. This serene setting opens the door to new understanding, fresh beginnings, and the rediscovery of one's life's true calling. Therefore, being alone does not mean nothing. It is a dynamic place of transformation. When you find yourself in this place of profound quiet, the cosmos will find a way to communicate with you in a way that the din and bustle of everyday life cannot. During the incubation period, something new starts to form inside of you, even if you don't realize it yet. Just like a seed sown in the murky earth, it's possible that your true nature is quietly developing, ready to emerge at the proper time. You can finally make sense of the connections you had previously missed by taking advantage of the rare chance to observe the unseen patterns in your life while you're alone. Through these patterns, synchronicity arises, showing that your encounters, experiences, wounds, and revelations are not random, but rather a part of a larger plan. When you're by yourself, you can start to follow the invisible thread, make connections, and discover the deeper. The significance of how your life is developing. You can gain a bird's-eye view of the situation and appreciate the sacred coherence that has been directing you from the moment you isolate yourself. Isolation has a far more profound effect on how you perceive and use time. As we go about our daily lives, it's easy to become stuck in a linear perspective of time, where things happen in a predictable order. However, when one is alone, time starts to distort. According to synchronicity, time is not linear. Rather, it is distinct lines, but layers that are intricately linked. During these times of reflection, you might become aware of the lingering influence of the past on your present or the stirrings of a future vision in your intuition. This is not a mirage, unborn from within. They're the realities of life. All of our investigations into the spiritual and psychological realms are echoed by the dark night of the soul, an experience both sacred and difficult. Jungian of the Cross, a Spanish mystic from the 16th century, was the first to use this term to describe a crisis of the spirit so profound that it seems as though we are cut off from God, our purpose in life, and even our own identity. There is no apparent way out of this existential void. All you can feel is an agonizing emptiness. This inner night was crucial to Jung's individuation process, and he had a profound understanding of it. The dark night is experiencing more than just pain, according to the Jungians. The process is cleansing. Souls don't die when they go into the dark. Rather, they emerge from the experience stronger, more lucid, and closer to their inherent truth. During this sacred descent, one encounters their profoundest anxieties, long-suppressed hurts, and the banished aspects of their inner self. These dormant emotions, anxieties, insecurities, traumas, and desires finally break through the surface. When we finally face the aspects of ourselves that we've been trying to hide, it hurts. However, change starts at this gathering. Our false personas and masks are torn away by the dark night, who compels us to surrender the ties that have ensnared us in vicious cycles of self-destruct. Isolation does not constitute punishment in this context. It is the receptacle for essential metamorphosis. A sacred fire can be kindled in the solitude of the soul's dark night. It eliminates delusions and diversions, making way for genuine perception. This inner night strips us to our barest essentials, much like the ancient alchemists stripped matter of its elemental form before transforming it. From this place of emptiness, something holy can emerge. It is a symbolic death, which makes it painful. What dies is unreal, but what emerges is real, so it's necessary. At its heart, this dying and rebirth is a gracious and loving act of God. A stronger base is being laid, even though it seems like everything is falling apart. Underneath it all, there is a spiritual rebirth. You are freed from the shackles of limiting beliefs and old identities as you venture into this shadow. Unbeknownst to you, you are led into a different life, one that is more on the same page as your authentic self. There is more to come than the dark night. A more profound beginning has its sacred womb there. As part of the individuation process, it plays an essential evolutionary role. Jung considered it a necessary rite of passage for one's psychological and spiritual development, rather than an exception. We are invited to reconcile with what we have rejected by integrating our shadow, and in doing so, we become whole through this crisis. The most alluring aspect of the dark night is the opportunity it provides for a more profound and personal relationship, intimate connection with the divine, or whatever you call the guiding mystery. Here, superficial convictions and unsubstantiated claims crumble. All that has endured and survived from your life is what remains. This fresh bond with the holy is not something that can be taught. You are born with it, not given it. It is not something you learn, but something you embody. Keep in mind that the cosmos might not be leaving you if you feel alone. It could be getting you ready for less of, in exchange for something you were previously unaware of. Something authentic, comprehensive, everlasting. Post a comment if you felt moved to share your thoughts or feelings, because even a single word may have reflected your own inner experience. Has the presence of that one soul ever made you feel at home? Or are you still on the holy road leading you to your true self? No matter how unfinished your story is, it has the potential to be the light that someone else needs, the sign that they didn't even realize they were looking for. Also, if you or someone you care about is secretly fighting the false beliefs that love is always painful, that giving up control is necessary for true connection, or that they don't deserve forgiveness and reconciliation, give them a copy of this video. In order to remind those who need it, I need your assistance. Shrinkage is not a requirement of genuine love. There is no need to give one's soul up for genuine connection. Plus, the bond we develop with our own self-knowledge is the most important one we'll ever have. Please subscribe, and turn on the notification bell before you leave. In this vast expanse, we delve into the depths of human nature, uncovering the intricate web of our unconscious mind and the ways in which each of our relationships mirrors our own personal growth. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, themes, or wounds you would like us to address in upcoming videos. You're the reason this place is alive. We value and greatly appreciate your opinion. Your presence here, in this video, and in the sacred labor of remembering your true self is greatly appreciated. Keep this in mind at all times. When the one is right in front of you, your spirit will know, not with terror, but with calm. However, until then, make the relationship you cultivate within yourself your most intimate. Yes, that is the groundwork. Home is where it's at. All things real originate from that state of completeness. Until our paths cross again, I will be by your side.